Hi, Robin. My name is Ellen, and I'll be correcting these essays for you. I understand your exam is coming up this weekend, so let's get these back to you as soon as we can. Definitely, you want to write the essays uh, that are part of the course. They have been selected so that they give you a nice variety of tasks. So I really would like to see you do those. All right, let's do this one though for the time being and get you started. Recently, all nutrition studies have highlighted that the excessive consumption of junk food can cause many health problems. There are discussions ongoing on how people can be made more aware of the importance of a healthy diet. One school of thought is promoting education as the right instrument to provoke a change in people's eating habits. However, there are other views which do not believe in this solution. In my opinion, people need to understand the danger of junk food, which can only be achieved through information sharing and teaching. Okay. Um, I like it. It's good. It's a long introduction. You don't have to write so much. What I'm seeing here, though, is some strange paragraphing. You've got one, two, three. Oh, well, all right. One, two, three body paragraphs. We don't typically recommend that. Um, we generally recommend having two body paragraphs that are well developed. And in a general good rule of thumb is that your body paragraphs should be around equal in length. And not only that, but they should also be longer than your introduction. So for me, when I see an introduction that is longer than one of the body paragraphs, it's a sign that you've probably written too much in your introduction and you haven't developed your body enough. When you don't develop your body fully, then it's going to affect your task achievement score because it means that you haven't fully developed the topic. So these are just some kind of like red flags that are raised as soon as I see an essay. And it's one of the flags, that I've seen here now, that this is longer, certainly than this paragraph right here. All right, but rather than going into any more detail about that, let's just actually correct it and see what you wrote. As we all know, change requires time. Hence, it would be important to start teaching the younger generations at school. Nutrition classes should be a fixed subject in the school program where students could learn about healthy diets. In addition, students should also have practical tutorials such as cooking and tours to supermarkets. All right, how would that help? Why? So, this is one way you could have developed this and made it longer. It's not just enough to tell me what should be done, but it's also important to tell me why it should be done. So let me just revisit the task and see what you're writing about. So the answer is to educate people, and others say education won't work. So you're saying this paragraph is about education. Let me just read it one more time. Yeah, so I thought there was a lot more you could have said here. And I also, seeing how you're talking about actually, let me not get into that. Let me just read it first. But yes, I think you could have said more here. So we're talking about why education is useful for nutrition. So you said it should be a fixed subject. Okay, why? What would happen? How would that help? And then practical tutorials. How would that help? Why? So these are ideas you have to develop. If you're just going to present the idea and not do anything about it, and not give us like any evidence or any sort of explanation or illustration, then it's not going to help your task achievement score very much. All right. The Ministry of Health should launch more health campaigns with the objective to inform on the negative effects of unhealthy food. Some people are still ignoring that diseases such as diabetes, heart disease, and obesity are mainly caused by eating too much junk food. In this context, the Ministry of Health should also refer to the nutrition facts labels, which can be found on most packaged foods and beverages. These labels provide customers with the detailed information on the nutrient content of the food. However, these labels should be improved to help customers understand better if the product contains too much sugar or fat. Okay, so I think that you should have combined these two paragraphs into one. Okay, like I said, I would have developed those two ideas here. Now, as for this is interesting because it's not like traditional education. It's not like being in the classroom or even in the kitchen and learning about nutrition. It's a different way to provide education. So you could have indicated that here. So after developing this a little bit, you could have said something like, the Ministry of Health could provide alternative sources of education on nutrition as well. For example, they should launch more health campaigns with the objective, etc., etc. And then you could have also said that packaging or labels are another effective way to provide information in a somewhat indirect way. So all of this is kind of keeping faithful to this idea of education, but also showing that education doesn't only have one form, it has multiple forms. So that's why I would have put all this into one paragraph, but I would have just linked it all under this umbrella of education in all of its different forms. So I just want to look one more time at this. Others think education would not work. Okay. Then what did you say? One of the main reasons why junk food or fast food will be difficult to ban is that they are easy to grab and to take with you. In particular, people who work long hours do not want to spend extra time on selective food shopping and on the preparation of meals. What makes junk food even more attractive are the fact that it is much cheaper than buying all the ingredients for a healthy dish, and that it is tastier due to the high sodium and sugar content. Okay, so let's see. Education will not work. So I got to be honest with you. I didn't think that you really answered this question. Education will not work. Yeah, I mean, you talked about, I can see your thought process here, but it wasn't really super relevant. Why won't education work? You needed to say that. So, not that it's difficult to ban, but one of the reasons why educating people will not work is because people already know many of these things. However, this knowledge does not trump the fact that these foods are easy to grab and take with you wherever, whenever. So, for the sake of convenience, people ignore all the knowledge that they have at their disposal. So that would have made this more relevant. Okay, you were just talking about why junk food is here to stay, but that's not what the question asked you. It asked you why education won't work. And I don't feel like you really answered that appropriately. Okay, so I believe that without education on nutrition, people will not start to rethink their eating habits. In this regard, also the intervention of the government will be required. Careful here. In this regard, the intervention of the government will also be required, as it is not acceptable that junk food is cheaper than healthy food. A health tax on junk food should be considered. Okay, that's lovely. I like that. I see here that you think your 387 words is too many. It is a little bit. The one place where I would have economized with words is, as I said earlier, your introduction. There's really no value in developing it so much. Your introduction really should just contain a rephrasing of the topic, what the dilemma is, what the issue is, and then your position on it. And then you just need to be done with it and move on to something else. Move on to your body paragraphs. So yeah, I wouldn't have written all this much. I already told you that I would have combined these two, but also that it's very important that you have supported ideas. It's not enough just to have good ideas, but you need to support them as well. And then when we talked about this paragraph, I told you that it wasn't entirely on topic. You missed this idea of why education is not useful, why it's not successful. So a lot of wonderful, wonderful things in this essay. Your language is very, very good. The level, the vocabulary, the grammar, all of it is super well controlled, feels really natural. But some of those other issues could potentially be holding you back from getting the score that you probably are looking for. Let's take a look at your next essay. All right, so here we've got an essay on environmental issues. Some people think they are global problems and should therefore be dealt with by the government. Others think they can only be tackled by individuals. Okay. Environmental issues by the government or by individuals. Discuss both sides. Okay. In our days, a major challenge in the world is the global climate change. Although action should be taken immediately to limit its impact, discussions are still ongoing whether governing bodies or individuals have to solve this problem. Okay, now it's lovely, but there is a very direct question here. Discuss both sides and give your opinion. So you need to give your opinion, and the best place to do that is in the introduction. There are reasons for that. If you look in the Task Achievement Band 7, it says presents a clear position throughout the response, and there are a couple of keywords there. Throughout, it means from the beginning to the end. So that means that they want your position from the beginning of the essay. They want to know what it is. And your position is essentially your answer to whatever question or command is in that essay. What are they telling you they want to know about? So the takeaway from this is that if they ask for problems and solutions, say there are problems and solutions. If they ask you for your opinion, make sure you give it in your introduction and then, of course, repeat it in your conclusion. Okay, so let's move on. In 2015, almost 200 countries adopted the COP21 Paris Agreement and committed to fight the global climate change and to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees. All right, there are too many thes here. I would have gotten rid of this one and this one. So committed to fight global climate change and to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees. With the entrance of force of this treaty, governments agreed to take on the lead in their countries in order to meet the set goals. All right, I feel like there are a lot of words here that you could have really reduced. So, with this treaty in force, governments agreed to, let me think. How about this? Agreed to take the lead, not to take on, but to take the lead in their countries in order to take the lead in their countries to meet the set goals. Even better. It is the government who has the power to introduce new legislations which are urgently required to save our natural ecosystem. For example, deforestation can only be stopped with strong governmental regulations in place. Take the Amazon rainforest, for instance, where huge areas of trees can be burned or chopped down illegally. Due to the absence of protective principles, the deforestation of the Amazon forest is unstoppable. All right, you got another one of these tiny paragraphs. I don't know why. Furthermore, the government has all the means to promote eco-friendly alternatives, such as the establishment of renewable energy in the country. Green energy programs can offer tax incentives to businesses and private people to encourage the installation of solar or wind energy plants. Okay, so my first instinct is that maybe you could have left this out. This is really a developed paragraph on its own, and so I don't really see how this inclusion is particularly helpful. It's nice, I like it, but you just have this little paragraph on its own, and I don't want to see that. I want you to paragraph more appropriately. So let's see. Let me just look at the question again. Environmental problems solved by governments or solved by individuals? Let's see. Let me look at it again. So looking at this, what I think you should have done is I think you should have taken out some of the ideas that might have been irrelevant and then add this to it. Okay? So remember that the idea that you're focusing on here is the idea of government being responsible for fixing environmental problems, okay, or for tackling these problems. So I thought that some of this was a little irrelevant. Yeah, like you started with this treaty. It's not super, super relevant. I think what you could have said is, let me see. Why don't you start with this? It is government who has the power to introduce new legislations which are currently required to save our natural ecosystem. And then, for example, etc., etc., the COP21 Paris Agreement is being enforced only because governments have agreed to take on the lead. Additionally, the deforestation in the Amazon forest um, is being combated with the help of governments, not individuals. Okay, so that's relevant. But then you have a lot of ideas here that are not relevant. The rest of it could be left out. And then here, this too, it's fine. Furthermore, the government has all the means to promote eco-friendly alternatives, such as the establishment of renewable energy in the country. Green energy programs can offer tax incentives to businesses and private people to encourage the installation of solar and wind energy plants. Fine. So again, it's the government. The government is responsible. So we're not looking for solutions, but we're looking for why the government is responsible instead of individuals. That's what you need to focus on. Okay. However, individuals are also responsible to take care of their planet. Everybody needs to be aware that even in his or her or his small little weight, no, either small or little, not both, that even in her or his little ways, we can help reduce carbon dioxide emissions, which are the main reason for the rise of the global temperature. People can contribute in many ways, taking public transport, walking or cycling instead of using the car, traveling less by plane, buying more local food, and eating less meat. All right, now this is lovely. Again, grammar, vocabulary, nicely controlled. But what you've got here is a list. So half your paragraph is essentially a list. And that's not really effective. That's not considered good development of your essay. So remember that the idea is main idea and then support for that idea. Main idea, support for that idea, rather than a list. That's not particularly effective. So you said, okay, people can contribute in many ways, such as public transportation or walking or cycling instead of using the car. It has been found that by reducing the use of private vehicles, carbon dioxide emissions fell in, I don't know, Denmark by 82%. So that's the way you support it. But break this up and, give support for it. Now here, buying more local food and buying local food and eating less meat was found to help because food had less what's that called? Sorry, I've just drawn a blank, but I guess it's like food miles or something like that. And this helps support both local farmers, but in terms of the environment, helps reduce emissions. So just really spell it out for us, okay? And then you could say that this is done not by governments, but by individuals and companies. Okay, so that's how I would treat that. Then, I believe that climate change can only be fought with united forces. Individuals must understand that everybody has to review his habits and that in some areas a change of lifestyle will be unavoidable. However, this change cannot take place without the support of the government. Now, this is something it's not really a pet peeve, but something you want to avoid. The government, and then the next sentence starts with the government. Is there another way you could have done this that would have been more cohesive and would have sounded better? Let's see. However, this change cannot take place without the support of the government. If provided, it can make a difference by adopting legislations and by promoting new ecological solutions for the benefit of our environment. So that's a nice way of doing that. I've used this passive voice, this if here, if provided. If provided by whom? Well, obviously the government. So that's a good way of avoiding this, the government, which I always think seems kind of sloppy. So, okay, now 339 words. I'm okay with that word count, but I'm only okay with it if you can do it in 40 minutes. So yes, I agree. 60 minutes is too long. You know that. You don't need me to tell you that. It's really a matter of practicing and reducing your time. Were there some things you could have left out? Yeah, I think we've established that you really need to condense your introductions and your conclusions. Really, just don't spend too much time on them. You're not doing yourself any favor. The idea is in the introduction, rephrase the task and then just present your thesis, your position, and then just move on, get out of there. The conclusion, too. This could have been shorter. You didn't need to write all of this. I believe it can be fought only with united forces. However, changes, must changes can only take place with the support of the government and individuals or something. But just economize. Really, 2 sentences in your conclusion is enough. And I think that'll save you a decent amount of time. Like I said, I thought here you had some information that was irrelevant. So stop and really think when you're writing these ideas down. Okay, is this really relevant to what they're asking me? Am I answering the question? Am I developing? Am I providing support for what I say that I'm writing? So these are some questions you have to ask yourself. Okay, it's a long correction, so it should give you a decent amount of information to help you with your next set. Let's see that next set. I'm looking forward to it, and I'll be waiting for your next set of essays. Good luck.